Welcome to the Shepherd Podcast. I'm your host. I'm Pastor Chris. Thank you so much for joining us today. The Shepherd Podcast is a way that we like to help you get acquainted with people here at Shepherd of the Hills, our church, school, and childcare. A lot of great people for you to get to know. And today I'm really pleased to introduce you to our guest for today. Her name is Rachel George. She is a teacher in our PreK here at our school. She's been a part of Shepherd of the Hills since 1986. She was married here. Her kids were baptized here, had a little time away, and now she's back with the church, along with now also being on staff with the school. And she also taught my daughter, Emma, this past school year in PreK Prep. So I've gotten to know her that way as well. She's a great teacher, and I'm very thankful for the time to visit today with Rachel George. Rachel, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your background? Where are you from?
I was originally born in Springfield, Virginia. My dad was in the military. My mom was a teacher. We moved, his last base was down here in San Antonio, and that's where he decided to retire. So we joined Shepherd of the Hills in 1986. My aunt and my uncle were already members since, I think, 1983.
Okay.
We came in, and it was the perfect little chapel church for our family. I enjoyed it. I went to Sunday school here. Through high school, my sophomore and junior year, I actually worked in the church nursery with Frona McGuire was the person who hired me for the church nursery.
Oh, really?
So during Sundays, I would go in and I'd watch the kids and take care of them. And then I got little babysitting jobs outside of that for like extra cash for high school.
Yeah.
Then I went to UIW here in town for my bachelor's degree, which is in psychology and a minor in sociology.
Oh, okay.
I went to get my master's. I went back to Virginia because, in all honesty, growing up, I considered Virginia my home. I wanted to go back to my home state. But when I got back there, I realized, no, Texas was my home. So after getting my master's in forensic psychology and working up there with the government for a while with background investigations, I decided to come home. I had adopted my son when I was 22. And since I adopted him as a single person, it was a lot of comfort to have my family help me.
Yeah.
And so I came back here for that. And then I wanted to do something that I kind of stuck with my parents' themes. My dad was in the military, and then he was a psychologist. And then my mom taught. So I went from being forensic psychology to being a teacher. So I followed both my parents' footsteps in that.
Well, how about that?
So.
Okay, I want to talk about the teaching, but we've got to talk about the forensic psychology. You worked in the Pentagon. You worked with some high-level leaders. Can you tell us about that part of your life?
Well, after I got my degree in forensic psychology, one of the things I got to do was I worked for USIS Investigations, and they were in charge of doing background investigations for military personnel. And one of the highlights of my first 3 months there was getting to go to the Pentagon and going there and meeting Donald Rumsfeld's secretary. And I was in charge of making sure of different things and asking questions for people. To make sure everybody still had their clearances. And so that was a lot of fun for me. That was an experience. We got to go and use his office. He was very kind, very polite gentleman, and it was an amazing time to meet and greet with everybody.
Wow, how interesting.
So.
And you said that lasted for how long?
I only worked that job for about a year and a half, and I decided to go ahead and come back home. It was hard. I had my son that I had adopted, and it was hard being up there as a single parent, and I could make my own hours. It wasn't an office job that I had to actually go into the office unless I was talking to someone or interviewing anybody. But I missed Texas was my home. I realized that being up there for a while, I really needed to be back home. So came back home, and I'm blessed that I did because that's when I met my husband. Within 3 months of moving back home, actually.
Wow, that's
we
good.
met my husband, and it's been nice ever since, just a great time.
Now, I want to back up. You adopted a son when you were 22 years old as a single person.
Yes.
What was the story around that? What motivates a single 22-year-old to adopt?
Well, I actually had dated his father, and we had broken up, and he was dating someone else, and CPS had gotten involved, and the father decided he wasn't up to being a dad. And so he went ahead, and he had gone through a lot of things. He was in the military, and he was over in Iraq for a while. So he had a lot of issues that he had to deal with himself before he could take care of a child. And the mother just was not prepared to have a child as well. And so I didn't see any reason for him to be in foster care. So I asked them if I could step up and take him, since I knew both parents and both parents consented, and I got my baby.
Really?
So he's 19 now. He actually graduated from Lutheran High School in 2020. He was the COVID class.
The COVID class.
He was the COVID class of 2020.
Oh, what was that like for him to be the COVID class?
It was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. He spends a lot of time on computers, so I thought it would be easier.
Yeah.
But it was a little bit of a push to kind of get him to stay online and stay on track to graduate.
Yeah, that's a challenge.
So, but he did, and he's in his sophomore year of college now, and he's still doing online. He actually started to enjoy online, so all his college has been online.
Wow.
So,
it's a new world.
Yes, and my husband ended up adopting him officially when he was 16.
Okay.
So we went through all the other adoption process and all that. So my husband, who he's called dad since he was 3.5, 4, finally got on the birth certificate and all that as well once we had everything settled.
Wow. Now tell us a little more about your family, your husband, and other children.
My husband was in the Navy. He was unfortunately injured, so he did get hurt that they went ahead and medically discharged him.
Oh, okay.
He brought our son Tyler and our daughter Adeline into the marriage. Tyler is 28, Adeline is 23.
Okay.
Adeline actually went to Shepherd for her 8th grade year and graduated Shepherd of the Hills for her 8th grade year. Then we have LJ, the 19-year-old, and then we were blessed with twins, unexpectedly but happily blessed with twins.
I remember that.
So we had our twins. They are 11 and they're in 6th grade here with Miss Riesenhahn, yes.
Yeah.
So that's kind of our little family and our extended family out. We have Ann Snell and my two godchildren, Tristan and Gwen, and then her husband Rick. And then we also have my other nieces that go here, the Walskis and their family. So
you talk about blended. I mean, you've got quite a combination.
Yes, I believe everyone they'll say that saying blood is thicker than water, but they forget the rest of it, which is pretty much saying, but water isn't bitter, or the blood isn't bitter. So it's pretty much, just because your blood doesn't mean that that's the only family you're going to have in life. Yeah. That, water comes together. If you look at the ocean, like the Gulf, and how the ocean comes in, you can actually see the dirt water and then the clean water meet, and it actually shows a line. Mm-hmm. And I don't believe in lines. I believe that lines are made to be crossed. And so if you have someone who is considered family, or someone who steps up as family for you and has your back, there's no reason why they're not family.
I'm thinking about all this in your role as a teacher, and you take children from all different families and you bring them together into a family, a class. Yes. In what ways do you see your own personal background playing into that aspect of being a classroom teacher, trying to bring everybody together into one cohesive group?
A lot of my kids come from different backgrounds, like you said, and I've had other kids. I've taught at risk before when I was subbing and stuff like that. Okay. And so I look at each kid individually. I don't look at them as a class. We become a family. Mm-hmm. So if I see each child as their individual, and I know what they can bring to the class, and I know what they might need from the class, then that family becomes a tighter unit, and we do officially become a family. When I lay them down for nap, I cover them, even if they're like, just cover my legs, I'll still cover them up. I give them a blessing, and I say, good night, my loves. Mm-hmm. And that's just kind of what I've always done with them, because I know the children here are very much loved by their family and by everyone extended, but I've had children that weren't, they didn't hear I love you. They didn't hear or get the hugs and the kisses. Yeah. And so I am one of those, if a child hugs you, be the last to let go, because you don't know how badly they need that hug. So in my class, that's my rule. If you need a hug, come and hug me, and I will hold you until you're ready to let go. And when you're ready to let go, let's see what you can do. And so that's what I look at that. I think all the kids have something to give, whether they think they can or not. They all have something to give.
Yeah. Well, I know Emma just loved Miss George, and we were even talking earlier about how kids who were in your PreK Prep class, sometimes they forget they're not in your class anymore because they became very attached.
Yes, the lineup, Mrs. George class lineup has a whole new meeting this year, but they're getting used to it, and they love their new teachers as well. Their new teachers are amazing as well.
Absolutely. We've got wonderful teachers, especially in our pre-K. We've got great teachers who love the kids and are well qualified.
Yes, I think it's an amazing team.
I'm wondering a little more about your background, the psychology, the sociology, the forensics. Does any of that come into play as a pre-K teacher?
Every day.
Really?
Every day. It always comes into play, because you can, if you watch a child's mannerisms, no matter how old they are, you can tell what kind of day they're having. You can tell if they had a good start to their morning, an okay start, or maybe they just had a really bad night and didn't have a good morning because of that bad night.
Yeah.
And so I take a reading off the kids when they come in. Do they want a hug? Do they just want, a high five? Do they want to do a little dance? Those type of things when they walk in my door. Mm-hmm. That lets me kind of know where they're at. Yeah. If they're having a bad day, I have a space in my room that they know they can go to. And then when they're in that space, once I have all the other kids doing their thing, I'll go and I'll talk with that child and just kind of see where they're at. Did we have a bad dream? Did we not get breakfast this morning because, we were in a hurry and we overslept and we needed to get something to eat, a snack? Those type of things. I read it in, there are kids that, and it's not here as much, but in other schools as well that I've seen, where they become very outwardly emotional. So they will act out, and a lot of times teachers aren't sure how to react to that.
Sure.
Because of my psychology degree, I know they're not acting out because they want to be mean or anything like that. And I know other teachers know that as well, but I dig a little bit deeper into that. And I want to make sure that I'm not sending them home because of their behavior, because sending them home just because they push someone or they kind of pulled a chair out from underneath someone, right. That just sends a message to them, I don't really want you here, I can't handle you either. Mm-hmm. And it's not for everybody. Mm-hmm. And I'm not, by all means, every teacher is individualized. Every teacher has their own strengths. Mm-hmm. I know I have my weaknesses. I do have my weaknesses. I get pushed to the point sometimes that I just have to take a deep breath and I have to count to 10 like I tell the kids.
Yeah.
But I think with my psychology background, it gives me that advantage with the ones that are really acting out to kind of bring them back. Mm. And so that's an aspect I enjoy. And I think when I talk to the parents, I don't ever talk at the parents. I try to talk with the parents. And so I always do, even if it's a quick email, your kid did great today, or a quick note. I know you received some of my notes of, mm-hmm. they were smiling today or they did this today, just something positive that the parent has something to look forward to getting from their child.
And that makes a big difference for the parents to see a personalized note, even if it's just a sentence, mm-hmm. to say, the teacher knows my child on a personal level. My child's not just a number. Yeah. Not just a face in the crowd. So that does make a big difference.
And that's a great thing about Shepherd. I've noticed that all kids here, they're not a number here. None of the kids here at Shepherd are a number. All the kids here are loved and cared for by all their teachers and all the grade levels.
Absolutely.
So I know even my children come home and they always have something little to say of, my teacher noticed this, or, I was complimented on this, or mm-hmm. I was told I could do this differently. And I'm like, okay. So I accept it, and I think that's a great thing. And that's what I do love about Shepherd.
Absolutely. Yeah, great culture here at our school. Mm-hmm. What are some of the differences for you? You were teaching PreK Prep, which was basically 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds.
Didn't quite make the September 1st cutoff. They were right there, and they just didn't quite make it. Not their fault.
Difference between teaching that group and then pre-K, where they are wearing uniforms and coming 5 days a week. For you, how is it different working with those two groups?
Honestly, a lot of my first 2 years here at PreK Prep, a lot of my kids were here 5 days a week. So I did get to see a lot of them. There were a couple that were 2 days, 3 days, but a majority were always 5 days a week.
Right, okay.
So getting to know their names I have fun doing that. We always have fun, sing songs, and it works out well. Yeah. My little class this year, is growing. So we'll get more names and more friends to come in. But I always treated my class, like even PreK Prep, like it was a classroom for them. My expectation was, because they were going to pre-K the next year, they needed to know my expectation is to sit crisscross on the carpet. I need to use my listening ears. I need to use my bubble when given directions. I need to stay in my seat unless I'm told to rotate during centers or go to the bathroom or those type of things. So I think preparing them, like Prep says, preparing them for those little things was a great benefit, because I'm actually reaping the benefit this year too, because I have those that have been taught by me as well, a couple of them in my class. I'm reaping the benefits from that, from the prep of it. So
that's great.
Yeah, I wanted them to know that they were responsible, their independence.
Yeah.
And then I pushed the independence even more so this year with, putting your lunch up, getting your snack, putting your nap mat up, making sure you're responsible. Like, did you bring your folder? Did you put it in the tub that I need you to put it in?
Yeah.
You don't have a water bottle? Okay, did you check your backpack? Did you remind mom and dad? Little things like that. So I think the independence is very much the the Montessori method, which is what I did some of when I took a couple education classes in my undergrad for extra hours.
Okay.
So it benefited me in the long run. But the Montessori method was one of my favorite things because it did teach the kids the independence. It taught them to be responsible with, I can't go to that center because I don't have a bracelet or a number to put on me to show that I can belong in that center. I need to wait and I need to share, those type of things. The centers that we do, even with the pre-K, are very similar when you look at our teaching guides and all that are very similar to the Montessori method of making sure that they learn how to pick up, put away, clean up, all these things, and then get them out and start again. So.
Okay. What do you find to be most challenging or most frustrating as a pre-K teacher?
If I'm really, really honest, it's getting up at 5:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
I can do anything else. You can ask me to do anything else throughout the day, but the getting up in the morning is what kills me every morning.
Yeah.
I'm not a morning person. I've never been a morning person. My mom, I went to high school, at the high school my mom taught at East Central High School.
Yeah.
And my mom, once again, 5:30 in the morning seems to be a recurring theme in my life, but we got up and she wanted to be there early because she would buy some of her students breakfast that weren't able to get breakfast or didn't have the means to get to school. She'd help them get to school.
Yeah.
So my mom put a couch in her room and I would sleep on the couch for like an hour and a half before school started. So I'd get my extra sleep. I don't have that option since I'm the teacher. I can't curl up on a couch for an hour and a half. And
that's true.
Anything like that. So, but it's worth it. Once I get here, I know every morning I get up, I'm tired, but I know I'm getting up for something that's worth it 100%.
Yeah. Someone needs to invent night classes for pre-K, right?
I think some of them would stay up for them, to be honest. I know some of them that don't like to nap, but they go down and they're like, I want to do this all day.
Yes.
Okay, you can do that with mom. Do that with dad.
Right.
So
this is actually a good topic. So for a night person who has to work a job that requires getting up, what are some tips for being at your best, even if you're not wired to be a morning person?
My trick is Coke or Starbucks.
Okay.
And I have a Coca-Cola every morning. That is my morning coffee. And then every other Thursday, I treat the kids as we're coming to school to Starbucks. Yeah. And they think it's for them, but it's really for me. I just want that extra little coffee. Yeah. It's making sure I do go to sleep at a decent time, trying to make sure that I get a routine in. Even with my kids, during the summertime, we really don't have a bedtime at my house. It's kind of, don't get into trouble, don't do anything you shouldn't do or I wouldn't do, but be in bed at a decent time.
Yeah.
But a week before school starts, we practice going to bed at a certain time and waking up at 5:30 and practicing our routine.
Do you?
And even I get up and do it. So it takes practice and time, but it works. It works. I last the school year.
That's right.
I do last the school year.
So note to our listeners, if you're looking for a gift for Miss George, Starbucks gift cards would be perfect.
Yes, yes. That'd be awesome, yes. And Coca-Cola. I love Coca-Cola.
Coca-Cola products, so there you go. I was thinking about your family life. I imagine you have a pretty busy family life because you're talking your children, you're talking godchildren, goddaughters, you're talking friends that are like family. So I imagine there's always something going on.
There's never a dull moment.
Yeah?
No, there really isn't any quiet. There's quiet once you start to go to sleep, but we also have animals that make a lot of noise, to be honest. But no, we have my two daughters do their own thing. They have Corinza's in Kung Fu, does soccer and cross country here. Colleen loves training her dog. She actually trained her dog to let her know when she was having seizures. So instead of paying thousands and thousands of dollars that some people do have to do, she did it on her own. She worked with that on her own. She worked with doctors and everything like that to kind of get an idea of how she needed to do it.
Yeah.
So that's her thing. She loves training animals.
Wow.
My nieces, they're always out doing something in the yard. They're gardening with their mom or they're running around in my house. Our houses are interchangeable. I've come home and found my one niece just kind of squatted in my bedroom watching my TV. Where are the other kids? Oh, over at my house. Okay. And I continue doing whatever we're doing.
How close do you live to each other?
And I live in a cul-de-sac, so they're right straight across the cul-de-sac from my house. So it's a straight shot.
Wow, how nice.
So you will see them until the cows come home pretty much during the summer, just going back and forth between the houses, running constantly. And, we'll have summer parties, and usually it's at our house because I don't really have a time on electronics if they're doing something together. The other house has a time on it. It's 10 o'clock during the summertime, so they usually come over to my house because I'm kind of like midnight. As long as you're not too loud, you're good.
Okay.
But that's only during the summertime.
Just seems like it would be a lively environment.
It is. Yeah. And it's not, if you're not for loud noises, the two houses are not for people. If you're someone who does not like loud noises just randomly happening, I have 5 dogs total in my house, 2 cats, 2 rabbits, 2 sugar gliders, and then my 4 out of my 5 kids live with me. And then we have the other house across the street. They have their family, and everyone's kind of back and forth constantly.
All right, let's go back to the animals again. Can you repeat how many of each?
5 dogs, 2 cats, 2 rabbits, and 2 sugar gliders.
2 sugar gliders.
Yes.
Now, we need to put up a picture of a sugar glider at some point, so if we could get one of those, that'd be great.
They're cute little squirrels. They're about yay big.
Cute little... what got you into sugar gliders?
My husband.
Yeah?
My husband wanted something that he could have during meetings when he was online, because he started working from home with COVID, and he, with his military background and all that, he sometimes would get anxiety and anxious. So the sugar gliders were meant as like an emotional support animal. We got them. We went to a reptile expo that was here in town. And I had a choice between my husband buying a snake or a sugar glider. I chose the sugar glider.
Now, did you say squirrels earlier?
They look like little squirrels.
But they're lizards?
No.
No, okay.
They just happen to be at the reptile expo.
Got it.
The people, S&S Exotic are the ones who he got them from.
Yeah.
And they happen to be at the reptile expo because they also have snakes and things like that. So
yeah.
That's also where we picked up our bunnies. So I left the expo with 2 bunnies and a sugar glider. And then a month later, I had a second sugar glider. And so, yes. They're named after the Gremlins. They're named Gizmo and Greta. So my husband and I love the Gremlins movies. So that's what he went for. He went for Gizmo, the little mogwai. And then Greta was the gremlin that dressed up with lipstick and a dress and a little hair, put on a little wig, and danced in the second movie.
Okay. All right. Well, very good.
Unique names.
Yeah. No, that's great. Sugar gliders.
Yes.
Well, fantastic. Why don't you tell us here at Shepherd, what gives you the most joy?
Oh, there are so many things, in all honesty. I'd have to start with the kids' faces, the smiles I get every morning from all the kids, whether they're in my grade, in my class, or I had them before, or they're in my daughter's classes, just to see the happiness on all the kids' faces and all the grades. They're happy to be here in the mornings. They're not, I've seen kids come in and they're tired, and I get that. As a non-morning person, I understand that. Yeah. But they're always willing to do anything to help out any of the adults they see.
Yeah.
There's never a child that sees an adult, trying to do something and isn't, can I help you, or do you need help, or let me get that.
Yeah.
All of them are very well-mannered. They all have this positive attitude, so you can't help but be positive when you're around them.
Yeah.
So that's one of the biggest joys I have here.
Absolutely. The kids bring a lot of joy.
Yes.
Yes, they do. Well, I'm very thankful for all the different experiences that you bring to what you do here. I mean, I always feel like people, you mentioned that God has things happen for a reason, or things happen for a reason. I believe that God uses our background and shapes us for the person that we end up being. And so the things that you're doing now, I can see how your past and how even your current experiences shapes who you are as a teacher. And, even the psychology angle, being able to read the kids. I mean, those are all things from your background. And, perhaps you wouldn't have been able to see ahead to what God was going to do with all that. But he does have a way of being very resourceful with all the different parts of our lives.
That he does.
Yeah. So I'm very, very thankful for what you do here at Shepherd, and also thankful for your time for the conversation today.
Thank you for having me, sir. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. And thank you for being a part of the podcast with us today. I know you enjoyed getting to know Rachel better. And if you would, please always keep our school staff, our teachers, in your prayers, because they are on the front lines of ministry doing very important work with the children that God entrusts to us. Well, until next time, please take care of yourself. God's blessings to you, and may he keep you healthy and safe and strong. And please tune in again for the Shepherd Podcast. The peace of the Lord be with you today.